Welcome back, dear students. Now we will continue the poem. In this session, we will discuss the second and third stanza of the poem Ode to Atom. After discussing the first stanza of the poem, and after we came to know that the poet personified the sun, and sun is the cause, and because of the very good friendship between the sun and nature, that is sun and the atom, that results for the ripening of the fruits, growth of the vegetables, as well as budding of the flowers that we discussed, that we saw, and how he described the atom, we saw in our last class. In this session, we will continue the second stanza of the poem, dear friends. In the second stanza of the poem, the poet continues the he describes again, and he brings uh, personification in describing the autumn season. So he says, autumn is seen in various forms in the fields. So it is personified as winnower, a gleaner, and a side presser. So if you look at the poem, who has not seen thee often amid thy store? Sometimes whoever seeks abroad may find thee sitting careless on a granary floor, thy hair soft lifted by the winnowing wind. So see here, winnower, a gleaner, and a side presser are personified in the stanza. It is personified as a winnower sitting near her store with her hair flowering in the wind, as well as it is in the form of a reaper. So, resting near a half reaped furrow while the corn remains unreaped. In this way, in the second stanza of the poem, he describes this autumn, this period after the harvest, when autumn just hangs out around the granary where harvested grains are kept. Most of the hard work in the autumn season has already been done, you know. In the autumn season, in ಕನ್ನಡದಲ್ಲಿ ಇದನ್ನು ನಾವು ಸುಗ್ಗಿಯ ಕಾಲ ಅಂತ ಕರಿತೇವೆ. ಅದಾಗಲೇ ಹಣ್ಣುಗಳು, ಗಿಡಗಳು ಹಣ್ಣುಗಳನ್ನು ಬಿಟ್ಟಿರುತ್ತೆ, ಹೂಗಳಾಗಿರುತ್ತೆ, ಕಾಯಿಯಾಗಿ ಮೊಗ್ಗಾಗಿ ಹಣ್ಣಾಗಿರುತ್ತೆ, ಪೈರು ಬಂದಿರುತ್ತೆ, ಬೆಳೆ ಬಂದಿರುತ್ತೆ. ಇದು ಒಂದು ಸುಗ್ಗಿಯ ಕಾಲದ ಒಂದು ಒಂದು ಡಿಸ್ಕ್ರಿಪ್ಷನನ್ನು, ವಿವರಣೆಯನ್ನು ಕವಿ ಕೊಟ್ಟಿದ್ದಾರೆ ಇಲ್ಲಿ. ಸೊ ಆ್ಯಂಡ್ ಆಟಮ್ ಕ್ಯಾನ್ ಜಸ್ಟ್ ಟೇಕ್ ಎ ನ್ಯಾಪ್ ಇನ್ ದ ಫೀಲ್ಡ್ಸ್, ವಾಕ್ ಅಕ್ರಾಸ್ ಬ್ರೂಕ್ಸ್, ಆರ್ ವಾಚ್ ದ ಮೇಕಿಂಗ್ ಆಫ್ ಸೈಡರ್. ಸೊ ಇಟ್ ಹ್ಯಾಸ್ ಬೀನ್ ರಿಪ್ರೆಸೆಂಟೆಡ್ ಆ್ಯಸ್ ಎ ಗ್ಲೀನರ್ ಗೋಯಿಂಗ್ ಹೋಮ್ with fruits of the days gathering on her head and crossing stream steadily without losing her balance. She is crushing the apples in the press and watching patiently the oozing out of the juice hour after hour. So even in the second stanza, the autumn, the season, is personified. It has given life. It is compared to the human being. So now we shall move on to the last stanza of the poem. In the last stanza of the poem, again the poet, or the whole nature, the whole atom, after the passing out of the autumn season, everywhere there is a wailing mode, there is a melancholy, there is a grief in the season. That's why there is a suffering, there is a grief, there is a lot of pain which can be seen in the autumn season. So, for example, sunset and autumn, they are significant. They are symbolizing they are leading, they are symbolizing for the death. For example, sunset is the symbolic of the day's end, as well as autumn is the symbolic of the death or end of the season. So that is why there is a melancholy, there is a grief, there is a wailful mood in the season. That's why speaker first feels the absence of the songs of the spring, but soon his regret is over, as for Autumn has her own music, because there is a cycle, there is a autumn, there will be a summer, again there will be a rainy season, again there will be a winter season. So there is a cycle, there is a circle. Hence, in the third stanza, the speaker notes that the music of spring is a distant memory. So that seems to be a nostalgia for the speaker, but that Atom's music is pretty cool too. This music includes the images of the clouds and harvested fields at sunset, gnats flying around a river. So you can come to know, you can see, you can observe the sound of the river flowing, and the lambs are bleating, crickets are singing, and birds whistling and twittering. All of the sights and sounds produce a veritable symphony of beauty. So there is a music, there is a beauty in the music of these animals, insects, birds, river flowing, as well as lambs are bleating. Hence, Autumn has its peculiar music and beauty when the sun is setting. A soft glow irradiates the fields from which the crops has been reaped. So there is a chirping of the grasshoppers, the bold twittering of the swallows, which are gathering together in large number for winter migration. So in this stanza, the poet describes the, as well as appreciates the music sound of passing out of the atom, as well as they, as I told you, there is a wailing, there is a wail, there is a wailful mood of the insects, birds, lambs, river, and nature, as well as even the sun setting is the symbolic of the end of the day, as well as end of the autumn season. So, in the first stanza, autumn is viewed as the season itself, doing the season's work, bringing all the fruits of the earth to maturing in readiness for harvesting. So, as we discussed in the first stanza, there is a maturity of flowers. From they are flowers, buds becomes flowers, fruits, they ripe, fruits become the ripening of the fruits, and growth of the vegetables. So everything, there is a maturity in the uh, autumn season, autumn season. And in the second stanza, autumn is personified in a woman's shape, is present at the various operations of the vintage that we saw, as winnowing, and everything. And in the third stanza of the poem, the close of the year is associated with sunset. The songs of the spring are over and night is falling, but the sense of sadness is merged in the feeling of the continuous life of nature, which externally renews itself in insect, animal, and bird. The end of the ode, through solemn breathes the spirit of hope. So the poet's intention is the spirit of hope at the end of the poem. So in next, the poem is in iambic pentameter. If you look at the form of the poem and meter of the poem is in the iambic pentameter. So the salient feature of this form is the scheme divides the stanzas into a section of 4 lines and section of 7 lines, as well as the rhyme scheme of the present poem is AB, AB, CD, ED, CCE. The first 4 lines of 3 states set ripeness, harvesting, and song respectively. So, throughout the poem, the poet has used personifications, apostrophe, imagery, and so many techniques, poetical techniques he has used. And if we can conclude the poem now, most satisfying of all the words in thoughts and expression. So three stanzas explains symphony of color, symphony of movement, and symphony of sound is observed in the poem. The poem perfected its sensuous imagery, enveloping as it were its vital idea. With this much of discussion, we would like to wind up the poem. Thank you, dear students.